Good afternoon, everybody. 1 o'clock Pacific time. New developments today in the battle to protect Puget Sound's southern orcas. A news conference by the National Marine Fisheries Service, now called NOAA Fisheries, is just about to get underway. We're going to take that to you, bring that to you here in just a moment. At that time, though, we expect them to announce a recommendation that the orcas be listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. We'll have more on exactly what that could mean in just a moment. The listing is not what a lot of environmentalists had hoped for. They'd wanted a little bit more severe listing of endangered, which would provide a few more sweeping protections. But environmentalists say this particular orca population has declined over the years. There are only about 85 of them left. And again, we expect the NOAA announcement in just a moment. We'll get to that press conference as soon as it begins. Right now, though, we want to talk with Michael Harris. He is with the Orca Conservancy. He joins us now in studio. You told me, Michael, that you were a bit surprised by today's announcement. A
little surprised, but you know, we're happy also because we wanted protection, federal protection under the Endangered Species Act, and that's what the orcas are going to get. So we're very happy.
Why is it so important for this particular group of orcas to have that protection?
Well, you know, I could tell you a story that's 10,000 years old about the southern residents. The short story is that in the last 10 years or so, they've had a 20% decline. They are on the road to extinction, and they mean so much to this area, beyond just spiritual, but they're also economic, and they're a totem species out there, and they are disappearing.
You and other environmentalist groups have been fighting for a listing like this for I want to say several years now, especially after, I think it was the L-Pod that lost quite a few members, and that was, what, 3 years ago?
Oh, yeah. All of them have lost members. I think the key thing is that there's a lot of breeding age males that aren't in the southern resident population anymore, and it's a population that's going fast. And we were talking about a population that went from 99 or 98 to about 78 at one point in just a matter of a few years. That's a dramatic drop. So dramatic action was necessary, and the best possible protection, best possible way to recover the population is the Endangered Species Act.
Now, you guys had gone to National Marine Fisheries Service, now called NOAA Fisheries, before, and with that argument, and they pretty much said, you know, it sounds like a good argument. We'll maybe classify them as depleted status, but really their argument was that in the scheme of all the orca populations around the world, this population didn't matter all that much.
Very interesting, because the Endangered Species Act legally requires a federal agency to use the best available science, and they were relying almost solely when they rejected the original petition on a botanist's taxonomy that orcas are one species that was written up in 1758. So anybody who knows orcas knows that we've learned a lot in 300 years. We've learned a lot in 30 years, and with Springer and Luna, we've learned a lot in 3 years about orcas. So that's not the best available science. And the district court sided with us on that and sent them back to the drawing board.
And these are, I mean, they are genetically very distinctive orcas from pond to pond. Is that correct?
Well, not just genetically, but culturally. I mean, what we learned about orcas, they are in every ocean of the world, but they're very, very different no matter where they are. They specialize on different prey. They all speak different languages, and that's really interesting. This southern resident population speaks a different dialect than any other population of orcas. Even Springer's family, the northern resident whales, they speak a different language. It may be a variation of Canadian and American, a few A's here and there, but it is a different language. And that is just one of the few things that makes them distinct and discrete. And, you know, and they've been here for 10,000 years, and we want them here for 1 million more.
I don't know that I make this correlation very well, but the same could be said for the Native Americans in the 1800s, where everybody just thought they were just one group of Native Americans, but they were all very separate tribes with very different languages, different practices, very different cultures.
Very interesting you bring that up, because the native people here, Tlingit and other groups, and Haida and other groups, don't look at killer whales as whales. They call them the killer whale people, and they believe that each family lives, a community of families, live underneath the sea in a village, and that when they go down to these villages, they zip off their orca costumes and they live like different people. So they recognize them as equal beings, not human beings, but equal beings. And yeah, I mean, we've come so far. I mean, look how much we've learned with Springer and Luna right now, and that's just in the last 3 or 4 years. In 30 years, we've only started studying orcas in the wild for 30 years. You know, before that, and first part of those 30 years, all we knew about them was what we knew by staring into a fishbowl in aquariums, and we've learned so much, and that's what the district court pushed NIMS and NOAA Fisheries back to reconsider. And like I said, I mean, we're not entirely surprised. We're a little surprised they went to a threatened instead of endangered, but it is protection, and it is a victory for the orcas.
Well, there is no doubt that orcas are a Northwest favorite. People living in the Northwest, I mean, they are really a symbol of the Northwest, one of them anyway. And anytime we have a shot by one of the choppers, Sky King gets out there and gets a picture of them, you know, people look at that and they like to see them out in the pods. There's a huge industry built around seeing them. But we talk about their decline, especially over, you know, the last dozen, 20 years or so, maybe more, maybe less. When we look at some of the new offspring, is there any hope that they can maintain with where we are right now, or is it a constant slide?
Oh, there's always hope, and the thing that that is most apparent that there's hope to recover this population is because of that culture that I mentioned earlier, and the fact that these creatures, particularly resident orca whales, have perfected the art of taking care of each other, of babysitting, of picking up the duties of raising the young. I mention all the time, it takes a village to raise a killer whale, and that's a little cliche, but it's true. I mean, these orcas have perfected the art of taking care of each other, and they're adaptive. Part of the reasons why they do have different dialect in each population is because they're so adaptive, and they specialize on the most abundant food supply in the areas that they are, and like I said, they really do adapt. And they're survivors. I mean, anytime you see Luna up in Nootka Sound for the last several years, or Springer surviving in a contaminated ferry lane down here without family and surviving, you know that they do have an ability to bounce back.
All right, Michael, we will check back with you in just a couple of minutes. We want to take you right now to Seattle, where the news conference from NOAA Fisheries is just about to get underway, and we expect them to go ahead and at least consider the idea of listing the orcas, this particular pod, as a threatened species. Let's go ahead and go to that news conference live.
Good afternoon. Today we are announcing that the Puget Sound orcas, known technically as the southern resident killer whales, are being proposed for listing under the Endangered Species Act.
1:58 Pacific time, NOAA Fisheries has proposed listing the southern resident orcas as a threatened species. That is something that they could finalize within the next 3 months. A lot of questions as to really what that would mean, how much more protection it would give them. But clearly today, environmentalists are happy about that. We want to check in right now with Michael Bennett. He is with a whale watching company, Mosquito Fleet owner and the lead captain. He joins us by phone, and we appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, thank you. You
know, we were hearing from Bob Lawn with NOAA Fisheries, and somebody had asked about the whale watching industry. And I think, you know, since they've been trying to enforce people staying 100 yards away from whales, the one thing he said was that without a doubt, most all of the whale watching industry has been great and has been really helpful in doing so. Would you agree?
I would agree. We've been working real closely with NOAA and National Marine Fisheries, as well as DFO Canada. This is really a transboundary effort, and so we've been really working with them as part of the conservation plan and developing the Be Whale-Wise guidelines, which were basically based upon the guidelines that we formed for our organization, the Whale Watch Operators Association NorthWest. And the great thing about these guidelines is we've been able to evolve as the knowledge has evolved, as acoustic effects have become a possibility. We've modified our guidelines as we go. And so I don't think the conservation plan is really going to change very much. I think we'll continue to really lock arms with them. The great thing that we're excited about is that the kind of the critical habitat issue, we can start addressing some of the real tough issues, the salmon restoration and toxic cleanup. Those are really tough problems.
Where's your fleet based out of, Michael?
We're based out of Everett.
Okay, so you're in this region. Do you have any plans for change then, or do you pretty much go about things the way you have because of the close-knit operation you have with the federal government?
Well, again, I don't think the conservation plan and us working really closely with them is going to change. We're really working toward the same goal, to be part of the solution.
Right.
And as we learn more, we're able to evolve. Again, as we're finding out what kind of masking behavior takes place acoustically, when do we need to slow down, what can we do to really mitigate any effect that we would have on the whale. So I think we'll just continue to work arm in arm with these guys.
I would think when some sort of announcement like this comes out, some people might think that, oh, this could hurt your industry, but I'm guessing that maybe this is really a positive thing for you because you have a vested interest in these whales staying around.
Oh, absolutely. We're not just greedy whale watchers out there. We have a real feeling for these whales, and of course we are an easy target, but we really have to turn to science too. We've watched the industry evolve from, just we have these scientists come to our meetings and starting to work more closely with them. I think we're all on the same team. I think it's good news.
All right. Hey, Michael. Michael Harris wants to ask you a question.
Hi, Mike. It's Michael. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, I do have a question for you. I mean, it's interesting talking to somebody in an industry, and you are the president of the Whale Watch Operators Association NorthWest.
Vice president this year. Went back to Canada.
Oh, you did? Okay, went back to Canada. But there's people are saying, well, who is really against? Who's going to be impacted by this? But you are an industry that is probably the most directly impacted by any protection, and especially a strong federal protection on this. And yet you and the rest of your operators have really gotten behind this from the minute the decline started, didn't you?
Well, it really did. We have a real vested interest, as you say, and a real feeling for this. If we thought we were killing the whales by watching them, we'd stop tomorrow. But
right.
but what we turn to is science, and we're really looking to the real researchers to give us guidance.
I got another question for you, Mike.
Sure.
It's when we talk about whale watching, I mean, there is a distinction between commercial operators and just people out there in their boats. Do you notice a big difference between private whale watchers and commercial operators?
Well, there is, and that's been changing. Soundwatch, as you know, has been doing a great educational job. And when we in the industry are educational outreach as well, a lot of people who operate private boats do end up coming with us on occasion. But yeah, that's a real focus here, is to educate the private boater to get them on board with us.
Great, thank you.
All right, Michael Bennett, we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Michael Harris, I know you're going to stick around. We're going to take some phone calls right now for some viewers who have been waiting patiently on the phone. Ed is in Aberdeen. Ed, you have a question or comment? Go ahead.
Hello, I'm a retired Texaco executive, and I support this because if we allow the integrated international oil companies to drill in ANWR and make profits of about $250 billion over the next year, let them put aside $1 billion or $2 billion in a conservation fund, quid pro quo, Maria, because the Bush energy bill is going to pass. Put that in there. They're going to want to drill, they're going to want to build refineries, but let them pay for this because it's costly litigation, and we need to save these creatures, or critters, as Noah would call them, because they're beautiful. God bless everybody in Seattle.
All right. Hey, appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. Michael, you want to make a comment on that?
I feel blessed. Thank you. I just got blessed. All of us did, actually. I think it's a great day. It's interesting because you have such a cross-section of people who just wrap their hearts around orcas. It's not a partisan issue. We talk about ESA, and that's the interesting thing. That actually started under the Nixon administration. The great environmentalist Richard Nixon, the Republican. And we've had some great Republican whale huggers in this state. Ralph Monroe is one. Dan Evans is another one. So they definitely appeal to a wide cross-section.
All right, let's take a couple more phone calls. We have Monica on the line from San Juan. And Monica, thanks for calling in today.
Sure. Hey, I live on the southwest side of the island, and I see the whales several times a day during the summer months. Mm-hmm. And I have a comment about the Whale Watch Operators Association. Basically, what I see are whale watching boats harassing the whales daily for, they follow the boats for up to 12 hours a day, up to 6 months a year. And to me, that's the equivalent of a pack of Harleys following a pack of endangered wolves around.
Now, I wish we still had Michael Bennett on the phone. Granted, he's out of Everett, but he can probably talk to this better than either of us can.
Yeah, I think that asking people whose livelihood depends on the exploitation of these animals to protect them is a little bit like asking old-growth loggers to protect the old-growth forest. It just can't be done.
All right, Michael Harris, we do have you, and you can probably talk to this. I mean, go ahead, your thoughts.
Well, I don't, the thing we have to understand is that the people who love orcas, the constituency of the orca whale is often the people who encounter orcas, whether you're on shore, which is our preferred way to encounter orcas, or out in the boats. And the interesting thing is every time Mike Bennett comes back with a boat full of people who have spent a few hours with these orcas, they become orca advocates. They really do, and I've seen it. It's a transformation that really needs to be seen. So I think in trying to reach certain mechanisms for restoring and recovering the population, the first thing we didn't want to do is go after the constituency. So we're very blessed, and I keep using the word blessed, but we're very, very fortunate to have people like Mike Bennett and a very progressive Whale Watch Operators Association. It's interesting, people call us up and say, I'd love to go out and see whales. What's the best way to do it? And how do we, you know, or I have a new boat, and what do I do if I see a whale? And we always say, watch what the commercial operators are doing, because they know what they're doing. They are stakeholders. If there's no whales out there, there's no whale watching. And we've been very fortunate to have a lot of progressive people, especially on the U.S. side, working with us to recover this population.
All right, Monica, I hope that answers your question a little bit. We appreciate you calling in. The number to call, 1-800-305-NWCN. We'll take a few more calls. That's 1-800-305-6926. What do you think about the NOAA Fisheries now proposing to list the orcas as a threatened species? That listing could come within the next couple of months. We got another phone call here. Norma from Colville is on the line. Norma, go ahead.
I used to live on the Puget Sound, and I would just hate for the orcas to be ended. That would be a total shame. And if I can help in any way, money-wise, I will.
Well, Michael, I'm not sure what kind of money we're talking about here, about what this is going to do with a listing, but...
Oh, there are plenty of groups out there. Plenty of groups. If you just do a little Google and look for orca and orca, you know, Orca Conservancy, other groups, but there are definitely ways you can help.
But there are a handful, at least even in Puget Sound, that that you know of. Can you, I mean, just list a couple? Obviously, Orca Conservancy is one you're with. Any others? Yeah,
well, the Whale Museum, I think. We mentioned the concerns about whale watching, and I don't think anybody's been as out front as the Whale Museum and their Sound Watch program for getting people to voluntarily behave properly around whales. So the Sound Watch program has been very, very successful, and they certainly need money. Every year, year after year, they need money. There's also, you know, the issue of Luna. You have one southern resident whale who's been dislocated for several years, and he is one of those 84 whales that NOAA Fisheries talks about in the southern resident community. So if people do want to help, I mean, look at the Luna issue and look at ways of helping some of the groups that are helping Luna. And that's good math. Putting one whale back into a population of 83, that's one of those rare measurable successes in conservation. So that's what I'd recommend.
All right, Norma, I hope that helps. We're going to try to get to one more caller here, and that's Michael in Longview. Michael, you're on the line. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to add that orcas are very precious creatures, and I love them with all my heart. I wish I could just swim with them all the time and whatnot. And we need to protect those animals, because you know, one day they could protect us. And I love them with all my heart, and I just want them to be a part of all of our lives, because they touch so many people's lives all the time.
I don't think you're alone, Michael. All right, we appreciate the phone call. All right, we have just about a minute left here, Michael. Harris, if you want to basically wrap up your thoughts today, this is a big day for you. Not as big as we might have expected with the listing as an endangered species, but still a species. From an environmentalist standpoint, how do you feel?
How do I feel? Well, it's been a 3-4 year battle on this thing, and I guess one of the first things I thought about today was, man, we have a lot of work still to do. No matter what happens with these orcas, and whether we go the Marine Mammal Protection Act or whether it was going to go the Endangered Species Act, we all knew that without the community support that this was going to be a failed effort. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. And we need a lot of people to stay involved and stay connected.
Michael Harris with the Orca Conservancy. We appreciate all your time today. Thank you for coming in and spending a while with us, as well as Brent Plater and Michael Bennett, who also joined us on phone. Again, we'll keep an eye on this as it continues to develop with the orcas protection. We'll be back in 2 minutes.